All right, welcome back. Johnny Dugan here. I'm going to do a quick monthly real estate market update. I'm going to show you some stats and I'm going to tell you what they mean and what they mean for buyers and sellers. Now, the stats I'm going to show are for the North Georgia area, but what we've seen is even nationally, they're essentially the same. There's a few areas that are a little faster or slower on these stats, but essentially, I'll show you the stats, take away what they mean. You can take away what they mean. And then I'll give you some specific examples as to what's going on, at least this month. And so I'm going to jump into the MLS stats. So these are figures that come to us from the MLS to kind of tell us what the market's doing. And I'm going to focus on three different factors. So bear with me here. All right, so the three things I want to focus on: inventory, days on market, and median sales price for the area. So we're tracking what these do and then what it means for buyers and sellers. So I'm going to start with inventory, and I'm going to hop on and show you some of the stats here. So in short, inventory is up. So the statistics here are stated as months of supply. Inventory, it basically, the months of supply means if people stop listing today, but the demand stayed the same, how many months will our supply last? And we just flat out ran out of houses. To me, that's a very confusing metric to kind of relate to. But the bottom line is inventory points to the number of homes available per buyer. The higher the inventory, that means there's more homes per buyer available. So inventory is going up slightly, and these numbers show that. So over the last few years, you see inventory 2019, and then it dropped to historically low numbers, abnormal numbers, to where inventory was so low. And part of this was because of the pandemic. People just didn't want to list their homes. But as big a part was the inventory, or not the inventory, but the interest rates going so low. So people, even in the midst of the pandemic, started getting all revved up about going and buying houses, but not a lot of people were listing homes. It's part of what drove a lot of the price. And now what we're finally seeing, thank goodness, is the inventory numbers starting to creep up a little bit. Now, does this mean that there's a flood of houses and markets about to crash? No. I'm going to show you an example. So this is showing 3 years. I'm going to back this out to 5 years. Look at those numbers on the left: 2017, 18, 19, normal years. And then all of a sudden, pandemic, and then everything breaks loose, right? And now we're starting to see some numbers show the inventory is creeping up. Now, part of it is understand inventory is a very cyclical thing. Summertime, the end of summer, the way the prices and the inventory and all that react a lot of times just simply per the year. But you can see here, over the last couple of years, our inventory is starting to creep back up. But historically, it's still very low. And I'm going to go even to our max, which is just about 10 years. You can see that our current inventory levels historically are still very low. They're higher than they were a year ago when things were crazy, but they're still very low. So what that means is if you're going out to buy, compared to a year ago, there are a few more homes on the market. Compared to 5 years ago, there's still very few on the market. So it still lends itself to a seller's market, but I'm going to explain some more of this here in just a second and what it all means. But the good news is, as a buyer, there are a few more options available. That's the biggest takeaway from inventory being up just a little bit. Days on the market. So I'm going to turn to the statistic for days on the market. So days on the market, take a look at this. This is over the last year. You can see that days on the market was very short. 3 days, 2 days on the market. This is what we saw when things were just bananas in the market. And they started creeping back up, but that's a cyclical change, and we'll see that in a moment. As we get into the holidays, people stop buying houses. This happens every year, and I'll show you. Then there was a dip in the days on the market again, and then it's starting to rise again. Again, cyclical, however, it does point to the market softening a little bit. And the inventory that I mentioned a minute ago, If there's more inventory, it does stand to reason that homes are on the market a little bit longer. But again, let me show you some perspective here. That's 1 year. Let me bump out to 5 years. This is the current days on market still compared to what we would call a somewhat normal market, which by the way, in 2019, 2018, 19, and 20, the market was still pretty hot. And so it wasn't skyrocketing like the last couple of years, but it was still what we would definitely consider a warm market. But you can see today's days on market, even though it's gone up in recent months, it's still pretty low. And then if I back this out even more, historically speaking, days on market, we're so spoiled now over the last couple of years with things staying on, or not staying on the market, getting off the market so quickly. And so understand days on market's a little bit longer. When I say a little bit, I'm talking about a few days. So still, it leans towards a seller's market. There are a few more homes on the market for buyers, but still understand it's still a historically tight market. Now, so the next metric I'm going to go to are home prices. And this is the one that everybody gets wrapped around the axle on. Sales price over the last year. Up, and then people see down. Anytime you see a down, you see a downturn, or any of these statistics I'm mentioning, that's when you start seeing headlines. And I saw a headline that was market plunges or home prices plunge for the greatest dollar amount since it's like 2016 or something. And really what they're trying to do is put into this, historical measure about what home prices are doing. Let me explain to you what home prices are really doing. They're not falling, even though this metric indicates that home prices are coming down. What's really happening is the gap between the condition of a really nice home and the condition of an average home. That gap was very small recently in the last couple of years. So if this house sold for 500, one that still needed updating and work would sell for 490 because people were thinking, I need to get what I can when I can. And if I got to update the kitchen, I'll update it soon enough, but I got to get into a house here. What's happening now are the nice homes are holding steady. They're not losing value or selling for less. Simply the gap for the homes that need work, that gap is increasing, and rightfully so. So if this is a $500,000 home, this home that still needs a kitchen, still needs a bath, should be something like $465,000. However, when these homes sell, they bring the average down. So the nice homes, they're not losing value. People aren't giving them away. They're still holding their value. But the ones that need work are starting to finally come back to showing that they're not up to market standards and they're having some concessions in the price. So the takeaways from the three metrics I mentioned here: inventory is up. It's still pretty darn low. It's pretty historically low, but it is up. And so if you're a buyer, there are a few more options out there. If you're a seller, understand that there's a few more homes that are competing. But if you're leaning into making sure the home is good to go and it's in good condition, you're not going to have any problem selling. The days on market, it's a very similar metric. It means if you're a seller, don't expect it to go in that first weekend. If it's in good condition, it still might. But the idea of having to wait a couple of weeks to sell a home and people thinking, if I don't go in the first weekend, then the market is definitely crashing. That's a very false narrative, and be real careful with the news that you read. Nice homes in good condition are still selling for, I'm going to call it top dollar, at least the maximum the market will bear, where homes that need work are starting to show a little bit of sign of giving some concessions. And what that means for buyers on both the condition showing some concessions and the time on market is buyers, you're not coming in, you're not getting a steal, but you can come in, and if it's not in great condition, there is starting to be a little more negotiation room. So if you're buying, it's a little bit better for you than it was, say, a year ago. But you still need to have your ducks in a row. I'm not going to sit here and go, hey, if you're buying, now's a great time because there's deals out there, and hey, everybody's starting to give their houses away. That's not the case. If you're prepared, however, with your mortgages and with your paperwork, and you're working with someone who can get you in, there are some opportunities at least to get you in. And you shouldn't be overpaying, say, the way we were before. So we're keeping an eye on that. And then home prices. Do not let articles talking about the average prices for homes or nationwide this plunge or plummet. The fundamental element of the inventory is still historically low. And let me give you one more metric. Building rates are still extremely slow. The best way to get inventory or to add to inventory is to build. And building right now is extremely slow. I expect numbers like this to be pretty steady. And so if you're a seller, understand if the house is in good condition, or if you're thinking about selling, you should be preparing your home for, we're going into the fall now, start preparing it for the spring and start getting it ready. If you do, the house will pull top dollar, very good dollar, and will sell very, very quickly. For buyers, if you're preparing, understand that there are some deals to be had, but don't go into it thinking, hey, the market's shifting, I'm going to start underbidding or undercutting whatever the list price is, because you're not going to win that way. And then with the mean price coming down or the average price coming down, understand the nice homes are still going for, top dollar. Just a little more gap in if it's if the condition isn't as updated or upgraded or work still needs to be done. We're finally starting to see some concessions there. So take all that into account as you're leaning into the market. Of course, I can help. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down below. Like and subscribe, and you'll keep getting these monthly updates. All right, talk to you all soon. Bye-bye now.